Hey, everybody, this is Matt Mayoko at NBC Sports Bay Area. Check out all of my work over there, NBCSportsBayArea.com. Also, this is brought to you by Canyon Club Brewery, a great place for the family to hang out, a great restaurant, a lot of tasty bites over there, family-friendly atmosphere. Check it out in Moraga, California. And coming soon, I'm hearing December, the Livery in Danville. Canyon Club will be opening a location there with a wide variety of beers, every kind of beer you want, IPA, Kolsch, everything in between. So check that out. Canyon Club Brewery in Moraga, right down the street from where I live, one of my go-to spots. Okay, so the 49ers agreeing to terms with Deommodore Lenoir on a 5-year contract extension, which should be announced later on Wednesday, got me thinking about the offseason and where the 49ers are now as far as looking ahead. This is a move, kind of a preemptive move, a strike, a move that it seems like a lot of times they kind of wait until the last minute to do these deals. They tried to get something done with Brandon Ayuk early in the offseason. That just did not work for them. And then, of course, it ended up being quite an ordeal getting him done. And it was a show. Let's face it. With Deommodore Lenoir, there was a sense of urgency, obviously, because the 49ers knew that if they didn't get something done with him, he would be an unrestricted free agent and free to sign with any team. And I really do think that by setting the market early, or I would almost say getting ahead of the market, the 49ers saved themselves a lot of money, a lot of cap space. And if they had waited and other people had signed, that money, that dollar amount would have just kept rising. And from Deommodore Lenoir's standpoint, get the contract now, create a lot of security, generational wealth, and not take that chance that there could be an injury later in the season that might prevent him from getting that big money contract. So let's look at the offseason for the 49ers and where they go from here. And of course, the first big piece that's going to fall into place is Brock Purdy's contract. Now, he has no outside negotiating power after this season, but the NFL rule is a draft pick can only renegotiate or get a new contract after his third year. So that's the first time that a drafted player can have a new deal. So the 49ers have been locked in. Brock Purdy has been locked in for 3 full seasons under that rookie contract. So that will change this offseason as he will get a big money deal where the big money on the cap will probably kick in 2, maybe even 3 years down the road. But he's not the only guy that will be seeking a big contract. And a lot of these guys, they're unrestricted free agents. So guys like Charvarius Ward, Dre Greenlaw, Aaron Banks, Talanoa Hufanga, those are guys who have set themselves up for big contracts. But in the case of Greenlaw and Hufanga, coming off of injuries, they might have to sign kind of 1-year prove-it deals, which means there's a chance the 49ers could get them back. The case of Hufanga is a little bit different than Greenlaw. If the 49ers are able to get Greenlaw, I mean, that's something they do, no questions asked, and they get that deal done because he is still seen as, a long-term starter in the NFL. For Hufanga, the 49ers really have a couple their bases covered at the safety position with Malik Mustafa, the rookie, and Jair Brown, the second-year player. So, that might be a situation where Hufanga could think that there's a better opportunity for him elsewhere. Um, One of the orders of business for the 49ers is trying to figure out who stays and who goes. And, when you just objectively look at the contracts, the one contract that I think is a little bit out of whack and will probably be somewhere the 49ers look would be with Javon Hargrave's deal, scheduled to make more than $20 million next year in base salary and bonuses. I don't think that he has proved to be worth that dollar amount. And so they could go to him like they did with Eric Armstead and Kyle Juszczyk and say, hey, here's a number that we would like you to play for, kind of a take it or leave it kind of thing. And of course, last year, Eric Armstead left it and went to the Jacksonville Jaguars and got a nice contract there. And Kyle Juszczyk said, I'll take that new contract proposal, which still enables him to be the highest paid fullback in the league. So I would say Javon Hargrave is the one guy where you can really look at it and say, that's just not worth the money. And if they give him a post one, if he doesn't accept a new contract offer from the 49ers, if he's a post June 1 cut, it would save the 49ers $20 million on the cap. Of course, there'd be a lot of dead money that would kick in the following year. But in addition to the other unrestricted free agents, Jordan Mason is also a restricted free agent. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him, if they bring him back or try to trade him. But those are some of the areas of need, or some of the areas that the 49ers have to address after the season, through, probably the end of March, with free agency scheduled to begin in mid-March. So the 49ers haven't been big players on the free agent market. I would not expect them to be big players again this coming off season. And of course, let's kind of tap the brakes a little bit here. So much of how the 49ers kind of forge their offseason strategy will depend on what happens the rest of the year and where the team's strengths and weaknesses lie December, and if they make the playoffs into January, and ultimately how the season ends. But when you look at it, I think the obvious areas where they have to address in the draft, and they will have some opportunities to address some positions in the draft. Right now, they have 10 draft picks anticipated. So picks in the first, second, third round, fourth round, no fifth round pick because of that accounting error that the NFL penalized them a fifth round pick. And then the sixth and seventh. They get a compensatory pick for losing D'Amico Ryan. So that's at the end of the third round, a special comp pick for that. And the 49ers are also expected to pick up 3 compensatory picks for net losses in free agency of 2024. So the obvious areas would be, of course, for them to address the offensive line. That offensive line has done a very good job this year, but I do believe they need more depth, especially at the tackle position, to kind of set themselves up for life without Trent Williams. They could probably also look to get a young center guard to back up Jake Brendel. Right now, their backups, Nick Zakelj is a young guy that I'm sure they'd want to keep around at a low cost. Jalen Moore is scheduled for unrestricted free agency, and he's the backup tackle. I've mentioned in the past that Dominic Puni is so good at right guard that he's one of those guys that you just kind of, wherever I think you need a player, he can fill it. He is one of the few guys coming out of that 2024 draft that really could play all 5 positions. And so the 49ers just might take him up on that versatility. I know a lot of people commented when I said that earlier that, no, he's found a home at right guard. Keep him there. Don't touch him. Let him play there and let him dominate for 10, 12 years. Well, I kind of think that he is such a unique talent that you just want to use him wherever is the best place to use him. I saw it with, say, Patrick Willis, where, what do they need from Patrick Willis? They need a run stuffer. Do they need a guy who ranges sideline to sideline? Do they need a guy in coverage who can take a tight end out of the game? Wherever they see a need, that's where I think Dominic Puni should be. So offensive line is certainly a spot where they can bolster with more depth. And then obviously if a guy that they, if there's a Dominic Puni that comes aboard and they find an immediate spot for him, that's good too for the 49ers. Also, I think that, they do need more playmakers on defense, especially defensive end. I think they can piece things together at defensive tackle. That to me isn't a huge concern, especially when you got a guy like Evan Anderson, who's really coming on, had a huge run stuff in the fourth quarter of that game against Tampa Bay that kind of pushed them back and was a big reason why Tampa ended up settling for the field goal to tie it instead of being in a position to push it over the goal line. So defensive end is a spot. They need more juice out of their pass rush. I think probably every team in the NFL can say that, but certainly the 49ers, they've been looking for a defensive end. Leonard Floyd, they're still holding out hope that he can really bump this thing up in the second half of the season. We shall see. But he's obviously a guy getting up there in years toward the end of his career on the other side of 30. So they need more juice out of that pass rush. So those are two areas. Also, depending on what happens with Greenlaw, another guy who can kind of fit that mold. And that's somebody I think they could get in the third round, a kind of a mid-round pick, a linebacker that fits the 49ers scheme. More depth, I guess, at wide receiver, but that would be a later round guy with Brandon Ayuk expected to be back early next season. The 49ers, I think, they will be bringing back their top three guys from this year, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall. I think they do need to get a tight end that they can develop to be more of an every down kind of tight end in case George Kittle isn't available. It just seems like ever since Kittle's been here, the 49ers have had these kind of specialist tight ends that are only blockers. They don't get much production in the passing game out of their tight end. So that is definitely a spot where the 49ers could use some help as well. So the big one, though, man, I'm telling you, that was a big deal to get Deommodore Lenoir signed up for the long term because he'd really turned into a good player. I mean, like I said, you can make an argument that he has been the 49ers' best, most consistent defensive player this season. And just that flexibility he gives them, being able to play outside corner in base situations, sliding inside to nickelback. That has taken one of the 49ers areas of weakness last year, just finding a nickelback, and made it into a strength. And then you add on top of that Renardo Green, a rookie who's played very well on the outside. And it really doesn't set up well for Charvarius Ward coming back to the team next year. I kind of get the sense that, he's been prepared for that, knowing that where just the 49ers finances are and some of the tough decisions they're going to have to make. But I would say, I've always kind of pushed back on the idea that the 49ers, this is their last dance, last opportunity for them to make a run at it. Hey, this season might fall short. I don't know. We'll see how this season turns out. They're right there with a 5-4 record. Arizona Cardinals are 6-4, but have such an easier schedule. I think what the 49ers have to do is, if they can finish 5-3 the rest of the way, which isn't out of the question, obviously, they should be right there and maybe even in the playoff mix for a wild card if Arizona finishes that thing off and finishes with, say, 11 victories. The key game now kind of shifts to that Green Bay game where 49ers could be battling Green Bay for a wild card spot. So that is huge. The 49ers have already kind of dropped the ball a little bit, losing 2 games in the division, losing to the Minnesota Vikings. So there goes that tiebreak, the potential tiebreak. But just thought for this one, we'd look ahead to the offseason and some of the decisions the team has to make. I think by and large, it's kind of straightforward. Would they ask some of their other veteran guys to look into their contracts? I wouldn't go there quite yet as far as, the big name guys, the guys who've been around for a while. But again, we'll see how this season ends. But, the first one that comes to mind, as I mentioned, Javon Hargrave, who, is out for the season unless the 49ers make a deep playoff run, then maybe he can come back. But that's how I see it right now. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on your notifications, like and comment. It really helps grow this thing. And that's it for now.